car, it's not that easy to follow someone. Getting ready for the lights to go out. In 30 seconds, we'll be going green, and Justinas Saldukas on pole position tonight. Everybody's got their headlights on. Matas Mendeles will try to make a move down into turn 1, I'm sure, from that third spot. Right-hand side of the grid.
Second spot. The positions are messed up a little bit right now. Matas Mendeles is standing starting right beside Justinas Saldukas in that black and blue Continental race car, and Butvila is starting third in those DPIs.
And we go, the left-hand side moves away much quicker. That's the clean side of the grid. Well, left-hand side on your screens, right-hand side for the drivers. That's the clean side of the grid, and that's the one that is moving away quicker down into turn 1. It's a long, long run into turn 1, and you're able to get some slipstream, and to the outside goes Linus Butvila. He makes the move on Matas Mendeles and gets it done, but Justinas Saldukas holds on, and they touch. Oh, a little bit of a touch, but both survive and live to tell live another day. Leo Bryan, some contact there a little bit further back in the field. I think that's Gustav Malakauskas trying to get through everyone. This is Alvarez down in P8.
Someone off, and that's Adam Kashoni, I believe. He has spun around, and there's someone else standing, and that's Gustav Malakauskas, our previous race winner. And there's a GT3 involved, that's Karolis Meškelis, so we did have a huge pileup in the first corners of the first lap, so it wasn't that clean.
From P3 to P1, and he gets past Jan Nims again, and Jan Nims loses another spot to Lampert. He's struggling. Maybe he's got some damage on his Mercedes, or just...
Yeah, no headlights on the car of Jan Nims. It's too dangerous. I'm not sure if the driver is able to see anything. You can see there was a big impact, and I think that's something. It was something with those DPIs involved, and well, the car, the pack was still tight, and maybe those GT3s were battling each other, and they didn't have a chance to miss what was waiting for them on the track. Oh, and Jan Nims is losing places. He's down into P13 overall.
He's gonna have to pit.
What chances does he have? How many laps has he to complete to finish the race with one stopper? I think it's still a little bit too early. Well, the GT3s can do that.
The GT3s can get the race done.
Maybe those tires might. Yeah, but maybe
they don't have to pit. In theory, they have to pit by the regulations, but you could make it on fuel. Jan Nims, I think he is down into the pit lane. Yes, he is.
So it was a severe damage to the race car, and it's going to be a long pit stop. So let's wait and see what Jan Nims will decide after this crash. Will he stay in the race and try to finish it? I think I'm pretty sure that Jan Nims will stay in race, but what about the tires? So will he remain on the mediums for the remaining hour? The tire wear is 200%, so it's still doable, but maybe he should think about the hards, or is it almost impossible to get...
Nighttime, it's pretty cold, so I think he's
just the mediums. And that's fast repair. So Assetto Corsa is good with those fast repairs, isn't it?
So he's 50 seconds behind the car ahead. A GT3 pit stop is instant, because pretty much they don't need to do anything. They'll just do a liter or two of fuel and immediately head back out, because the car can make it to the end, so you wouldn't switch tires anyway. So Jan Nims, well, he's done the mandatory stop, and we saw somebody else do it at Daytona, where they had to pit quite early.
I think that was Adam Kashoni.
But that was in the DPi. I saw someone doing it in the GT3s as well, and they were able to get it to the end. So Dimitriev leads in the GT3s. He's got a nice 3-second cushion to Lampert behind, and Martinez very close to Lampert as well. Heading down the front straight. It's a super duper long straightaway, and trying to stay behind it is a McLaren versus McLaren battle here. A car that's not so popular in the real world of GT3s, but maybe a little bit more popular here. Linus Butvila, by the way, he's still holding on to P2, and they're coming to the end of the lap, so they're going to lap the GT3s pretty soon. But Daniel Butwell 1 second behind. He's just a little bit struggling to get that car turned in. I think that's just the effect of the aero.
And look at the tires of Justinas Saldukas. So he went with the softs, and I thought it was a mistake during the qualifying session, but it looks like Justinas Saldukas is the only driver who decided to go with softs. And remember, 2 weeks ago, Daniel Butwell was one of the drivers who started on softs and that didn't go well. But it's a different story. It's Mugello during nighttime. It's not Daytona Beach during the day, so the temperatures are definitely lower. And well, maybe this was a planned decision by Justinas Saldukas. Maybe it's not a mistake, and maybe he thinks he can do. I spoke with Daniel Butwell about last week, about the last race 2 weeks ago. So he said, well, he almost didn't have practice time, and well, he almost jumped straight into the race. That's why he was unprepared and made those bad decisions. So it still was a good race. I think he finished 4th, and maybe this time he did have a little bit more of preparation time for this race. And I'm eager to see how this battle will play out, and how those softs will hold on the DPi of Justinas Saldukas, who is currently leading the race.
Something to keep in mind, and something that's very, very important here. You have to think of Daytona. You have to think back to Daytona, and the DPi is kind of like making it, I think, 5 minutes past the hour. That was past the half-hour mark. That was the longest they made. But you're running for so long up on Speedway 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you're pretty much doing the whole of the Speedway, and that's a long, long section that you're doing flat out. Well, over 2 miles that you're doing flat out, 2.5 miles that you're doing flat out. So it is a very, very long stretch where you're on full throttle and with very, very high fuel consumption. Here, you're running a lot shorter, and it's not as throttle heavy around this place, and then the fuel consumption drops. So I think what Justinas Saldukas might be doing is having a little bit of a shorter first stint, maybe making a gap, and then pitting, getting all of the fuel in, getting onto a new set of mediums, and then running a longer stint towards the end of the race. We'll see how that works out for him. Not really extending the gap too much. It is kind of stable at 1 second. The gap kind of drops and then goes up, and then drops and then goes up. But we'll see how he handles it in the traffic. I think he's a little bit more committed this time. Last time out, well, you saw incredible start, looked quick, and then the soft tires just, well, exploded under him, and he made many errors that led to a non-satisfactory finish for him, I would say. But he's getting closer actually this time around, so maybe finally the tires of Justinas Saldukas are starting to overheat, and it would be interesting to hear from him after the race if this was actually intentional. And Martinez down the inside, and he makes a move on Lampert, but Lampert crosses back, but they're still side by side. Coming into turn 2, it is a blind entry up into here, and Martinez gets the move done. Lampert now has to go side by side with Sabas, but I think he's just about going to make it. Oh, Sabas to the outside, and now Marijuana will go to his outside. May be able to make the move. If he stays to the inside here, he's going to close it off on the exit. Almost. No, he's kind of still there. I was going to say beautifully done, but still side by side. If you can stay side by side, then Sabas would have been at the advantage, but no, he had to back out of that move. That is Marijuana up into P4.
Yep, and this is a very important battle. Oh, Marijuana goes off the racetrack, as I wanted to point out that we will definitely have a new winner in the GT3 class this evening, because our championship leader Jan Nimtz decided to call it the day and has quit the race. So we will not see how well the strategy with the early stop and with that accident would have played out for the fastest driver in the GT3 field. And I kind of had no doubts that even with that misfortune, Jan Nimtz was one of the favorites to win this evening, even though it didn't look like that at first sight with that accident and the long pit stop. And well, maybe Jan Nimt had more problems. Maybe there was some disconnection. I'm not sure what happened, and we missed that.
I think it likely fixed the car and came out and was still quite damaged, and he just realized that there's not really any point in
well, there was point. I'm pretty sure there was point. He didn't lose that much during that one lap.
Well, if the car is still damaged, then it's still...
Well, if it is, maybe. It looked like it was fixed.
So Lucas, by the way, lost position.
He did, and I think he made a mistake because he's 1 second down to Danius Butvela and only 1.9 seconds ahead Matas Mendelis. He had roughly 3.5 seconds advantage against the third place driver, and you can see Justinas Salduka struggling with the traffic, and well, when he's on his own, he's able to perform with that car, but as soon as he hits traffic and maybe he needs to choose different lines, maybe he overheats those tires, because I'm pretty sure if you go a little bit too deep into the corner, those softs begin to burn. As pointed out by one of the drivers, especially the rear left tire gets constantly overheating, and the softs tend to be to work not so nicely on this racetrack. Well, maybe the conditions, maybe the time of the day changes the situation, but it looks like Justinas Saldukas really struggles on that compound. So we have...
Speaking of new winners, by the way, you said GT3s are going to have a new winner. Well, the DPIs are
also
probably definitely going to have a new winner, because Malakauskas is in the pits, so you have to have an incredible accident of every single DPi that they become unrepairable for Malakauskas to take the win. So it is going to be a new winner in both classes. GT3 is maybe a little bit more unexpected, and it's rare to see Jan Nimt make retire from the race. Would be interesting to know what actually happened to him. This is Kashoni and
there is another DPi behind, but I think, that's Gustas Malakauskas, so he's actually still on the racetrack and driving, even though he's dead last and he's one lap behind the leaders, so he would like to get that lap back, but
he's actually a lap behind the two cars ahead. So the two cars ahead are in a battle, and they've got Malakauskas, who's a lap behind, but he has the right to unlap himself if he is quicker. And well, if you judge from his Daytona pace, he is quicker. So let's see if he's going to be able to do anything here to the outside of that Mercedes GT3.
Yeah, that's too fast. That's a little bit too deep into that corner, and it was a little bit optimistic. And well, but he was eager to overtake that GT3, and you could definitely hear how he gently released the brake as soon as he started to overtake that slower car, but it didn't work out. And well, it's a different story, and it's like looking at a different driver. Comparing to the last race, Gustas Malakauskas was unstoppable, unbeatable. It looked like that he always had something to answer the drivers who pushed a little bit faster while they were driving behind him. And now I wouldn't say that he is the fastest driver today. Well, 1 minute 36.9 previous lap time compared to 1 minute 36.1 to the previous lap time of Danius Butvela, but actually with the previous lap time, Gustas Malakauskas was still second fastest in the DPi class, but that's roughly 1 second and 7/10 slower than the fastest lap time so far.
I think, to be honest, he's a little bit frustrated now. He had that incident in the beginning. It wasn't a good qualifying for him. I think he's just a little bit... he's pushing maybe a little bit too hard, and sometimes those mistakes come from that. There's not much he can recover today. Would be difficult to catch up a full lap, but Mendel is still stuck behind Salduka, so actually he's not been able to make the move. And I think it's a similar story to what happened to Butvela.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure Matas Mendes will make that move, because Danius Butvela is already miles ahead, already 4.5 seconds advantage against the second place car.
I don't think he'll struggle to make that move, but I think it's interesting to note that if you remember last time, it was Danius Butvela kind of going quicker and slower, and sometimes would match the pace of P1, and then would drop down and go a second slower. I think this is something similar, because look, okay, there's been a little bit of traffic, but the gap has now increased between Saldukas and Mendelis, and I think in a lap or two's time, he's going to be on his tail again. So I think that soft tire, the driver's overheated, then they slow down, cool it down, and then go again. But that's not the way you want to take this race. I think 10 more minutes. If Soldukas can hold on for 10 more minutes this evening, well, he might just have a chance of doing a very, very nice undercut. Maybe, just maybe, with an early pit stop, might be able to jump later into lap. If he gets lucky in traffic and obviously taking the advantage of a new set of tires, depending on which tires he does choose, I think he's going to go for the mediums there. This is Simon Speth, 1 second behind that battle ahead. But look, Lucas again making a gap and going much quicker.
So maybe it's not only Justinas Soldukas struggling, but also Matas Mendelis, because the previous lap time of Matas Mendelis was not particularly fast, 1 minute 37.8. So he definitely made a mistake somewhere, or he's having troubles with that setup on his race car. But all those struggles and the lower pace of Justinas Soldukas is letting Simon Speth to gain on both of these drivers, and I think it was quite a similar situation 2 weeks ago when Simon Speth was also, well, he didn't start at the front of the pack as far as I remember, and he was running somewhere P4 or P5 at the beginning of the race, and then suddenly as the race evolved, he got up into the second position and never gave that up. Something similar maybe awaits for Simon Speth this evening, and with that new race leader and the previous race winner that low the grid, Simon Speth is one of the DPi drivers to look at as he might take over the lead of this championship, and he's gaining on Matas Mendelis already quite badly, 1 minute 35.6, so that's 9/10 faster lap time, and he's already going around the outside into turn 1, and oh, beautiful.
Wow, around
well
the
played.
outside. That's not a place you make a move around the outside often, but Simon Speth, again, I think Matas Mendelis might be struggling with that dirty air and overheating the fronts when sitting behind someone. Let's see how Simon Speth can do it, because Simon Speth kind of came from not nowhere, but he was a little bit further behind. He kept his front tires in decent enough condition. And
is there someone off the track? It's Soldukas off the racetrack. He just went straight on. Oh my, and he was doing pretty good. His previous lap time was even faster than the lap time of Dainus Butvela, but now he's running slow, and that's game over for Justinas Soldukas, and he's still struggling, and that's definitely overheating of the tires. When he went off the racetrack, he definitely overheated those softs, and now he has to go a little bit gentle. Alvarez goes to P4, and there's your game changer. Suddenly, I think Justinas Soldukas made a similar mistake in the Nordschleife race while he was leading, something like that. So it's not the first time we see Justinas Soldukas making mistakes on very important on very important moments of the racetrack of the races. And he's already 6 seconds behind Alvarez, and it's still a little bit too early for Justinas Soldukas to make that pit stop. So I think it's game over for Justinas in the battle for P1 this evening.
It's definitely over for the battle for P1. It's 20 seconds the gap. That's not something you can easily find. Maybe for P4 still, but again we see another soft runner get into trouble, and well,
I think it's not worth the risk.
Potential of the soft tires again. It looked like they just kind of work, but again, the mediums are a little bit quicker, just that little bit quicker over a race stint. It is still Dimitriev leading the GT3s. He's making a gap to Noyo Sabas, 5 seconds the gap between those two. Martinez behind 1.5, and this is Lucas Valles trying to make a move on Martinez. Martinez stays in front for the time being, but this is a battle for P3 in the GT3. Well, once Simon Speth is out of the equation, battles come about very, very quickly.
And it's worth fighting for, because, well, who wouldn't want to snatch that win in the GT3 class while the fastest driver has quit the race, and it's still quite a tight gap in the GT3 class, only 5.5 seconds lead against the second place. Second placed Noyus Sabas by Dmitriev, and we already know that there are some strategy involved in the there is some strategy involved in the GT3 class, well, in both of the classes, because all of the drivers have to take a pit stop, so there's still some possibilities for the drivers who maybe are a little bit more behind right now to gain during those pit stops and well, create maybe some sort of a situation on the track to get a better position. Matas Mendlis was gaining on Simon Spethana. I think it was because the drivers had to deal with the traffic. Boss Hammer was being overtaken by the DPi class leaders. Well, Dainus Butvila definitely with a little bit more of preparation time for this event is currently safely in the lead, 6.2 seconds. And we are currently
very disappointed in what happened last time, because now look at how quick he is. He's been, I wouldn't say dominant, but he's been very, very quick. It wasn't pole position for him, but again, the pole position sitter, not that quick, and most of the time losing places.
Saldukas P6, wasn't he in P5? Did he lose to Leo Bryan? Or am I mistaken something? I think he dropped down to P5 after that mistake, but now he's down in P6. Maybe I'm wrong, but well, yeah, his previous lap time is 1:43 again.
I was gonna say he came into the pits, but that gap is too small to have gone into the pits. I think the window is open
for the DPIs.
Yes, well, for GT3s it's always
yeah.
You can pit whenever you want, but I think for the DPIs the pit window is open kind of at the moment. It's 13 minutes to go. If you look at that extra lap that you might have to do at the end, 14 minutes to go. I think at the end of this lap we might just see Saldukas coming down into pit lane. I think he's still able to catch Leo Bryan.
He's definitely struggling. Look at his lap times. Last time was 1:43. This time he was 1:39.6 around the racetrack, and I'm pretty sure those softs are already gone. So he was not gentle enough. So I think you can kind of go on the softs if you are very gentle. Avoid any possible mistakes. Don't slide the car even a tiny bit. But it didn't work out for Justinas Saldukas, and he made quite a lot of mistakes. He lost that lead, then he lost the second place. Not sure what happened. Maybe it was a hardware issue, because it was a strange place to go off the racetrack. Actually, it was not a long braking distance, and maybe he ran.
It's often to. It's not a turn that you often come off the track.
Yeah, so maybe he is facing different issues, and he's definitely struggling on pace, because he's still the gap is growing constantly between Justinas Saldukas and Leo Bryan. So this stint is something to forget, but well, he needs to stay on at least some kind of pace to try and create some situation to be able to finish a little bit higher, because he's really fast, and he didn't go to the pit lane, so he's still confident, even though his lap times are still in the 1:39s without any mistakes. Wow, maybe it was a mistake by Justinas Saldukas. Well, maybe it was unintentional to put on those soft tires on the DPi, though he still had a full tank, so he did prepare his race setup.
It's strange to me that he's still staying out.
Yeah, so definitely he could have pitted right at the end of the slot, but maybe he didn't want to take that risk. Maybe, well, he sees the numbers. The cold weather, maybe it does affect the fuel burning a little bit. The fuel should burn a little bit faster during those night conditions. So maybe he calculated that, well, he doesn't want to take another risk, and he staying for another lap, even though he's quite slow, but still playing it a little bit safer. And maybe we will see him dancing around after he makes his first and final pit stop to put those mediums on that DPi, and I'm pretty certain he will do that. But we have to wait and see.
He has to do it. Everybody else is doing it, and it looks like the solution here this evening. Let's see if he comes down into the pits. I don't think he does again.
Oh, so
stays out again.
1:38.3, so he found a little bit of pace, but still not enough, and he's still the slowest DPi.
Yeah, still a second slower than the O'Brien.
And he's the slowest DPi right now on the racetrack. Out of them all, our pole position winner is definitely struggling, and I might say he's taking bad decisions. So one bad decision followed by another bad decision, and I'm not sure how this will end out for Justinas Soldukas, while we enjoy a GT3 car battle while they are being overtaken by Justinas Soldukas, the driver in that DPi, who is struggling on tires. And can he do it safely? Oh, it's not Justinas Soldukas. I thought it was the painting of the DPi that belongs to Justinas. DPi, that should be the O'Brien, maybe.
Very interesting battle they've got on their hands now. So Lukas Schwader's lost. Lukas Schwader's and Marek Juan, they're still running kind of close. But that battle is still going on. So Dimitriev, he's pulled out an 8-second lead at the front of the GT3 field. And, well, that's not a gap you're going to close down. That's a Jan Nims style gap that he opened up. And should be able to hold on to it pretty comfortably. Nobody that's been in P2 has been able to even come close to that, even come close to his pace. So you had Noyes Habas there, you had someone else there in P2 as well, and nobody was able to stay with them. Schwadas and Marquand still, I would say they're super close, they're kind of close.
Oh, Justinas Soldukas still stayed out. I think he crossed the line without entering the pit lane.
Oh, and
he's off the racetrack.
Yep, into the wall, and another mistake, and that, I think, is him saying bye-bye to P4 even.
Yeah, so Adam Kajoni even overtook Justinas Soldukas. Was it Adam Kajoni?
No, they're still closing down on, I think that's Gustas Malakauskas.
Oh, that might be Gustas Malakauskas. Yeah, so Adam Kajoni is 3 seconds behind Justinas Soldukas.
Gustas Malakauskas, by the way, he's now in front of the whole GT3 field.
Oh, Justinas Soldukas.
Again!
Those tires are dead. Yeah, they are dead. I'm not sure. Why didn't he go into the pit lane? Those decisions.
To stay on his standard strategy that he had planned out before the race, but you have to make sure to adjust to issues like that.
Yeah, it's not good, not good decision. So he has to be coming in by the end of this lap. If he decides to stay out, that would be really, really unexpected, even though it's happening for a certain amount of laps already. And we have assumed that he decided to go in like 6 minutes ago, and he's still trying to stay out on the soft rubber. Dimitriev suddenly lost some of the lead. It's down to...
I think I saw him off the track. I think I saw Malakauskas and Soldukas overtake him.
Yeah, so he definitely made a mistake. 1 minute 54 compared to 1 minute 50. Look at what Justinas Soldukas is doing. Maybe he can't find the entry to the pit lane.
I don't think. I think
he's just trying to stay
with. I think he's just trying to stay out with his standard strategy, but that's just not gonna work.
It's not.
Not this evening.
No, it's already not working. It's not that it's not gonna work. It's not working already.
It's already gone.
Yeah.
The strategy is gone because he's lost a minute a full minute to Daniel Lutfula. That's massive. And
It is.
last, well, he's still got Malakauskas behind him. If he gets overtaken by Malakauskas, that's going to be game over. I don't think he is, but he needs to get into the pits as soon as possible. This isn't...
Well, he definitely will. I think he definitely will stop right now, but it's already the middle of the race, and any different strategy possibilities are far gone already. And well, he didn't leave himself any chance to either try and undercut or decide something interesting. I think there's one or two of the GT3 cars going into the pit lane. That's Jure Lapa and Lukas Schwadas. I think Martinez decided to stay out as soon as, or is he also in the pit lane? It's hard to tell because we don't have any information signs on our timing screens, but actually I think Martinez is also in the pit lane, so is Lukas Schwadas and Marif Juan. So well, there's your different GT3 strategies, so you can have whatever strategy you want, and then you have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5 GT3 cars coming into the pit lane at the very same time. Someone is starting to roll backwards, and it was Martinez, I believe, who did roll backwards instead of forwards after the pit stop was completed. Oh, that's crazy. Why do you stop at the very same lap in the GT3s and don't try anything different than your rivals do? Because you have the possibility to try and overtake your rival off the racetrack and well stop on a completely different lap, but there goes your chances.
Could have been maybe I'm trying to somehow justify this, but
No.
the only reason I could find for doing that is if you see that there's a big group of DPIs coming behind you. There's obviously not that many cars, so you're not going to have a big group, but normally if you have a lot of cars on track, you might just have to pit early because you know you're going to lose time because you see a lot of the faster class, or if you're in the faster class, you see a big gaggle of slow cars in front of you. That's not an excuse for Justina Soldukas. I don't think that's an excuse for the guys ahead as for the GT3s here that you see on your screen. So they all pitted at the same time, and they all stayed with the same gaps. So
I think Martinez lost a little bit of on-track positions. He was a little bit further up. I had the order, and Marijuana was battling, or I may be mistaken those names a little bit, but I think Martinez was battling Schwadas, or at least he was
because he rolled back. If you remember, well, like we saw, he rolled back in the pit lane. So
yeah.
Finally, down into the pits comes Lucas.
And he's not the first of the DPIs to pit, because Leo O'Brien has already pitted one lap earlier. And yeah, well, we assume that Justinas Saldukas had to make that pit stop maybe a couple of laps ago. Lukas Schwadas into the pit lane again, so maybe he received a penalty because, well, he's one of the drivers who has stopped on the previous lap time. And is it a drive-through? It is, so maybe he was speeding in the pit lane. Do we have an incident limit for any of the drivers? No, it's quite
Maybe a pit lane speeding drive-through?
Maybe. Oh, look, Jan Nims had a stop-and-go penalty, so maybe that was the case why he decided to quit the race. Karas Moshkel is still on the racetrack, but somehow, well, he's being shown as disqualified. I'm not sure, so penalty not taken. So disqualified 2 times. Oh no, stop and go 10 seconds penalty for speeding in the pit lane, and he didn't do that drive-through. So a lot of drivers doing a speeding in the pit lane, and now, well, Carlos Moshkel is approaching the pit lane, and I'm not sure how that works. He's still on the racetrack. I think he had to be brought back to. He's doing that stop and go 10 seconds penalty. Will that work out? Because, well, well, from my understanding, a disqualification would have put Carlos Moshkel off the racetrack, well, without any possibility to drive, but well, he's on the racetrack.
Disqualified means that you've done... Well, he hasn't done anything really that horrible. He's just, well, not taking his penalty. But normally, if you're disqualified, you don't want to continue on driving.
Well, Carlos Mascalis is a new driver in this championship, and he doesn't have a lot of experience, and maybe that's something. Well, the penalty might have come from the real-time penalty system implemented into Assetto Corsa, and maybe he's not that familiar. That's Matas Mendelis. Oh my God, that's not how you win races, guys. If you miss your spots, if you go reverse in the pit lane, you will not win races. That's not how it's done. And well, Matas Mendelis is looking pretty decent this weekend. There goes Carlos Mascalis, so he actually has been disqualified from the race. So I think it has something to do with the real-time penalty system. Not all the drivers are familiar with, and maybe that was something that Carlos Mascalis was unaware. Matas Mendelis exiting the pit lane behind Dainius Butvila, so Simon Speth and Adam Cachon is staying on the racetrack without...
Behind Alvarez as well. Stop. Alvarez hasn't pit, but still behind.
So Matas Mendelis 8 seconds behind Dainius Butvila, and he definitely lost, well, at least 2 to 3 seconds with that missing of his pit stall, and that's not going to help, and I'm pretty sure he will be unable to overtake Simon Speth, though he has a nice chance for undercut. Is that undercut when stopping earlier?
Yes.
Yeah, so
undercut
he has
if you stop early, overcut if you stop
later. So I'm pretty sure undercuts work in this championship in the DPi class, because you have the ability to put on fresh rubber on your vehicle, and then you have like advantage during the laps, even though you're with a little bit heavier race car. But well, undercuts should work nicely, and that's what we were hoping for Justinas Aldukas to stop earlier and undercut other drivers, but that didn't happen. And well, let's see how it will play out for Matas Mendelis, who will maybe struggle a little bit more towards the end of the race, but he's battling this guy on your screens.
I don't think he'll struggle much. He made it 35 minutes into the race.
Yeah,
he
exactly.
has to do 25 more, so he's not going to struggle. So it does make sense to pit early.
Yeah, maybe the undercut that will not work that much, because the drivers have to fuel. So I'm not sure how long a pit stop takes, but I think it takes longer to fuel up the car than to change the tires, and maybe that's the strategy for Simon Speth.
Just as much.
You don't actually. Well, Matas Mendelis pitted a little bit.
You have to add the same amount of fuel. So
you don't. But you can. Well, Simon Speth will come to the pit lane with less time remaining, so that means he will need to refuel a little bit less, and that's less stop time. Because I think those tires...
he'll need to refuel the same amount. He'll just need to...
You think so?
He's coming into the pits now.
Yeah, but
yes,
you think he will have to...
Because it doesn't matter how much the tank is still at the tank. So if you...
well, you
Simon Speth now comes in with 2 liters remaining, let's say, in his tank. And Matas Mendelis came in with 5. But they both need to do X amount of liters to fuel up to. So you're still fueling up to the same amount. It doesn't matter if you're doing a single stop.
Well,
race.
yeah, but there was a little bit more of time, more time remaining for Matas Mendelis when he stopped, and less time for Simon Speth.
You come in with more fuel in the tank.
Maybe the drivers calculate. Okay, that's a lot of. That's a
mad,
lot of yeah, but I think I think Simon Speth with stopping later has the chance to have a shorter pit stop. Sadly, we don't see the pit standing times in this platform, but I'm pretty sure it's about that. Look, Simon Speth getting out of the pit lane ahead of Dainius Butvila, and he stopped much later, and I think that's about it, because the refueling in those DPIs takes quite a lot of time. It's like they are not pumping with a high pressure hydraulic fuel pump, but like a human is pumping that fuel.
Second difference.
Yeah, so it's because Simon Speth
very
was
far behind.
That's
not 2 laps of fuel.
But well, Dainius Butvila was the first one of the drivers to pit of the leaders, so I'm pretty sure it's about the refueling time, because well, you have only 20 minutes of race remaining. Why do you need to put in the same amount of fuel while you are standing in the pit stall?
You need to add the same amount of fuel.
You don't need to add the same amount of fuel. If you, well, I don't get the point. Well, Dainius Butala pitted with, let's say, 30 minutes remaining, so he has to put fuel for 30 minutes. And Simon Speth pitted with 20 minutes remaining, so he has to put one-third of fuel less.
Because you're not coming in with an empty tank. You're coming
it doesn't
in
matter,
with,
but the drivers, maybe they didn't start.
You still have 10 minutes of fuel remaining in the car. Yes. Because
maybe you don't.
Maybe
you don't. Maybe you don't. Maybe they.
That would be stupid. To not fuel up the car would be.
Well, maybe they calculate their strategy to the amount of fuel, and maybe that's the mistake that they do. But this is one of the explanations why Simon Speth got that much of advantage against Dainius Butala. And he was definitely standing pretty short time in the pit lane. So maybe the drivers are calculating.
He's not doing tires. It's the difference is too big. That's all I'm saying. The difference is so massive that it's almost like he didn't fuel the car at all.
We need to talk to the drivers. I think we need to talk to the drivers.
I wouldn't believe that 10 minutes of fuel is 15 seconds of time here. Or 5 minutes.
It is. I think one of the drivers was explaining.
Inside, look, that Dainius Butala makes the move. I think it is tires because it looks like Simon Speth is struggling quite a bit.
Maybe it is.
That on track. It is an interesting strategy option now. If let's assume he did not change tires.
And there's a mistake. So if he didn't change the tires, there goes. The second driver who is not willing to finish second in this race. So there comes Alvarez already. So that was a big mistake. I think that cost Simon Speth roughly 6 seconds. And maybe that was a mistake. So yeah, looking at the way Simon Speth is driving right now, it's definitely the tires.
And it looks like he's going to struggle. He's... and Mendel is right behind him as well. So...
Oh no, not anymore. Matas Mendel is off the racetrack, and I think he did have a contact. So, oh, the DPi guys, the DPi class leader is struggling to keep that car on the racetrack. Mendel is lost to Leo Bryan.
Nobody wants to win today.
Well, Dainius Butala definitely wants to win.
Well, he's the only one. Nobody else wants to finish on the podium. Everybody else has crashed out. Oh my goodness. 4 wide they went at one point down that straight. And down the front straight they go. Alvarez might try and make a move to the inside. He knows he's got that tire advantage.
If he does. If he does.
Right. I think Alvarez actually gained a lot of time as well. So I think he might be another one of those that didn't change tires. He might be on the same set because last time out, 1 minute 38.
Oh yeah, that's not...
Traffic.
Maybe that's traffic. Gashoni only 1 minute 36.1, so maybe the drivers decided to play that no change tires card during the pit stop. I thought
By the
it's
way,
not...
fastest lap of the race. That's for you, Snuzzle Lucas. 1:35.2. That was then a few laps ago.
Was it a few laps ago? I think it was at the beginning of the race while he was still in the lead, and that's a pretty old fast lap.
He still holds the fastest lap. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, he does.
So nobody else has come as close. Dainius with 12.3 for him.
Nobody has struggling. So Simon Speth suddenly seems to be back on pace, and he's already 1 second ahead. So maybe that's the tire card, is it? And it's Butala 1 minute 36.9, so maybe that's the case, not the fuel, not my assumption about the fuel, but I thought that, I think Matas Mendelis was explaining that the refueling takes quite a lot of time, much longer than the change of the tires, but maybe this is not the case, and looking at the way the drivers are behaving on the racetrack, it looks like it is. Well, look, 1 minute 36.4.
While Dainius Butala does a 1 minute 35.2.
Yeah, but still, that proves that Simon Speth did put on fresh rubber on, because with those old tires he would not be able to put in.
A second slower. That's a big difference. Let's see what drivers further down the field can do.
And I would say it was cold tires, but this championship has tire blankets enabled. So even if the drivers put fresh rubber on, it it's warm. It's not a cold tire in this championship. So
lapses in concentration again.
Matas Mendel is 11 seconds behind Lee O'Brien, so he made another mistake because he was 1 second behind or 2 seconds behind Lee O'Brien the last time they crossed the line. So what is happening with the guys?
Tired?
Maybe.
Just,
look, what happened in the GT3 class? Noy Sabas with that stop and go. Oh, it was Lucas Chaves. Okay, my mistake. I thought Noy Sabas had that stop and go. But no, Noy Sabas battling Marijuana and not battling anymore. So
still battling. He's still on track. I guess good for Noy Sabas, who's not at risk now of a penalty for that. But still behind.
It's a nice group of GT3s. Look at those gaps. And well, Martinez, who was quite at the front, is currently right at the back. But well, those gaps are pretty tight. Of course, there's only 15 minutes of race remaining, but those tires are getting old with the 200% of wearing. They just balance might change, then we might see more mistakes by the drivers, but it's still, well, if you can stay calm for Dmitriev about the win, you couldn't say so about any other position in this race. Oh, there goes 8. Look at the speed difference. Oh my, oh my. It's just like a plane flew by. Oh no, Yosaba's going for a move.
So late. And he's just about maybe going to make the move stick if he stays on the inside here.
Oh, and he does?
Yes, he does. Wow, so a massive dive down into turn 1. Let's see if Noy Sabas can try and find some time now to Dimitriv. Different than 15 minutes, 14 minutes.
Simon Speth 1 minute 35.1. Sorry to interrupt you, but that's the new fastest lap time of this race, so he definitely went for the tire change. So what's
maybe a horrible pit stop for Mendelis?
No, Mendel is making mistakes. Look how slow he is for a consecutive amount of laps. So maybe he has damage. Maybe he was involved in an accident in the traffic. Maybe he didn't went off the racetrack on his own. But it looks like he has damage because all of his previous laps are slow. Noy Sabas overtook Marijuana and he's gaining advantage, so it looks like Marijuana is struggling on pace. He's still P3. He was like, I think P7 at one moment. Now he's doing pretty okay. But
Lapo with the Ferrari, he's been quiet today, but at Ferrari's home race, he might just be able to find a podium spot here. If he can catch Marijuana 1.5 seconds, he closed the gap down last lap. He might just be closing the gap down this lap as well. Let's see if he's able to do something here. Maybe a podium finish for Lapo. I don't think we've talked about him at all tonight. He's doing a good job. Lucas as well. He's coming up to maybe make a move. He's made a move on Martinez. He might be able to make a move on Polonio at some point. The gap getting smaller and smaller. Down into turn 1. Ooh, trying to make a late move like Noy Sabas.
Martinez breaking even later and going around the outside in that McLaren. So was it intentional or he did outbrake himself? Not sure. But what wonders me the most, Lucas Varas had a drive-through penalty, but he's still only 5 seconds behind P2 in this race in the GT3 class. So how did that happen?
I guess he's going very quick.
Maybe so. He should overtake Polonio without any hesitation, but it looks like he's being sandwiched with 2 teammates. So maybe Polonio going a little bit slower in the help of Martinez. 1 minute 52.4 was the previous lap time of Polonio, and actually Lucas Varas was 1 second faster, so was Martinez, and Lucas Varas should take that move, and he's going into the inside without any hesitation, and that move is done. So Lucas Varas up to P6 in the GT3 class so far. And there's a nice battle for P2 because Yuri Lapo is gaining on Marijuana, while Marijuana is right on the tail of Noy Sabas. So we suddenly have a really beautiful battle in the GT3 class, and still some DPIs involved in all those overtaking maneuvers, and maybe not helping that much the drivers fight each other, only helping Dmitriev to extend that gap in the GT3 class lead. And Simon Speth suddenly taking out all the guns that he has, 1 minute 35.0. So where was Simon Speth when he was leading out of the pit lane? Where was that pace? And that mistake cost him the fortune, and I think that mistake cost Simon Speth the win in this race. But thinking about the championship, and Simon Speth finished second 2 weeks ago, and he's going for a second position finish this time but the previous winner is down in P9. So I think Simon Speth has good chances to end up in P1 in the overall standings. Well, at least that should be really tight on points. Dainius Butila finished 4th 2 weeks ago, and he's looking for a P1 finish this time. There's a lot of unanswered questions in the GT3 class. Who is going
That's
to
a
take...
main battle. Well, DPi's, the battles are kind of gone. Even if Simon Speth is catching, you have to catch at around a rate of 1.5 to 2 seconds.
He's not catching anymore on the previous lap. Lagauska's putting in a 1 minute 35.9, so he has the pace, but it didn't play out this evening. Lapo going for a move.
To the outside. I think that's more of a defensive move from Marijuana, and Lapo just kind of being there on the racing line. Let's see what his decision is here. I think he has to kind of make the move if he wants to take even P2, maybe. He might just be a little bit quicker than Neue Sabas as well. Maybe that Ferrari just so much better on its tires here tonight, because he's been able to kind of keep that car in check. And he's been quiet the whole race, and now, well, 49.6 last time round. The only other driver in the 49s in the GT3s, well, that's your current race leader, Dmitriev, who's gapped the field by 10 seconds now. So Yuri Lapo, he has to make a move as soon as possible, because he wants that P2, maybe, if he does want that P2.
The fastest car in the GT3 class is Lucas Veras, I think. 1 minute 48.9 is the fastest lap time in the GT3 class. 1 minute 48.8 by Dmitriev. But Lucas Veras is right on par with the pace, and he's currently 6th in the GT3 class. So he has good chances, though. Well, he overtook Polonio. Martinez is going strong and a little bit faster, even going wide, having to deal with those DPIs. And there's Dainius Butila, the leader of the race. Look how busy Dainius Butila is, but he's waiting no more. And look at the fastest lap time of the race, 1 minute 34.8. Simon Speth is not waiting, not wasting any second. He's 6.5 seconds behind Dainius Butila. I don't see a possibility for Simon Speth to still gain on Dainius with that little time of race remaining, but well, he's still putting pressure on Dainius Butila, and that's why you can clearly see how Dainius Butila is not wasting any moment while dealing with the traffic. He's just going through it because he knows that he has to do it. 7 minutes and 40 seconds. That means still a handful of laps, and you have to finish the race. So it's still not won, and he has to do something.
What's this pace before?
I don't know. Simon Speth, yeah, he came out of pit lane. It looked like he came on old tires, even though we have a tire blanket, and we're already assuming that he's on old tires, but it looks like that's definitely not the case. I want to drive a little bit with this driver who was, well, it looked like he had chances to finish second this evening. Well, you cannot see huge damage on this DPi, though Matas Mendels is continuously slow on the racetrack, and he will lose that 5th spot shortly to Adam Gajroni. Maybe he will stay 6th. Well, Justo Lucas is also gaining quite fast on this driver. Every DPi seems to be becoming a little bit faster. Leo Bryan, personal fastest lap time last time around, 1 minute 35.9, and the lap time of Matas Mendels, it was 1 minute 39.6. It is 1 minute 38.9, so not sure what's that about. Maybe Matas Mendels didn't change the tires.
But that's a gap of ½ minute in front of him. That's not gonna happen. Not today.
Not today. He will lose 1 point. He will lose the 5th place definitely. Because Adam Cajoni is already right on the tail. Lee O'Brien gaining on Alvarez. It's not going to happen. So one place on the racetrack with a position change in the DPIs currently is the battle for P5. But the battle for podium places in the GT3 class is far from over.
So Lapo actually dropped off the back of Marijuana. He was catching super duper quickly.
I think he made a mistake.
Maybe, because there's not a big gap that has opened up. Cajoni now behind Mendelis. Look at how quickly he caught up. That should make the move in no time.
Well, with 5 minutes remaining, Matas Mendelis might try and take out all the guns that he has remaining in this vehicle to try and protect that position. I'm not sure if that's possible, but he can go for that. He can try and go in. He's going. Look, he's defensive, so he thinks he has enough pace or grip. Oh no, but that's too easy. So
he's gonna make it on the
he's definitely on all tires. Well, Matas Mendelis is definitely on all tires. So why do the guys? I'm not sure if he's on all tires. How on earth you come up with that strategy? I'm not sure. We've seen strange strategies this evening with the tires. One came from Justinas Aldukas. He is currently 7th. But he wasted so much time on the racetrack with those old tires, and you could see that there were drivers pitting. Well, Simon Speth pitted with 20 minutes of race remaining. That means that those DPIs were able to stay on the racetrack for 40 minutes. So why on earth Justinas Aldukas didn't pit with like 38 minutes of race remaining? It still remains biggest question of this evening. Should we go back to
Yep, that's Yuri Lapo. He's come back at Marijuana now. I think he's going to find it difficult to get P2, but he might just be able to get P3 here this evening. But he's going to have to make a very brave move in these dying moments of the race. Nobody wants to lose a position. So this Lapo in the Ferrari at Ferrari's home race. Against the AMG of Marijuana. Let's see if he's able to make something into turn 1. Maybe another late move like Marisapas did. No, still no. So he's still going to have to stay behind for at least half a lap. So until the next real overtaking opportunity comes back to him. No other real battles on track. Mendelis already 3 seconds behind Cajoni. So that's that battle done and dusted. Got Sparks and Stratus. 3. He was catching, but not enough. He only caught 3/10 last time round, so this is your closest battle. 0.4 of a second now between these two drivers. Let's see what Lapo can figure out. You're coming up to a section now where you can try and find a place to make a move, or at least set up a move down the front straight. It is much easier to make a move down the front straightaway than it is to make a move in here somewhere, but here you can try and surprise your opponent. Yuri Lapo continuing on right behind, and now down the inside. That's the 001. I think that's Gustas Malakauskas going down the inside. So now Lapo has a little bit of an advantage because Malakauskas kind of held up Marijuana, but maybe not enough, because that gap is still 0.5 of a second. 0.5, well, not going to be enough to make a move there.
And I think we have 2 laps remaining because...
yeah, well, once things with Kola crosses the line, will be final lap for him.
Oh, and he got stuck behind a GT3 car, almost running into the back of it. And look at the gap, it's down to 4 seconds. And definitely Daniel Butel lost quite a lot of time in this situation. He gained on the...
It's calculated. It's quite calculated because he knows he can lose that time, and he knows he doesn't have to make a risk with any of the GT3s because he doesn't want to crash. Because so many of the others have crashed either on their own or
including Simon Speth, who is the one that's chasing for the win right now. And if he would have avoided at least that spin, he didn't crash, but he did have a spin, and I think he lost roughly 7 to 8 seconds. So think about what would happen if he didn't make that mistake.
Yep. So I think Linus Butzela just calculated it because he knows he's got 2 laps to go. He knows that, well, on pure pace he's never going to be caught, so he can kind of go a little bit more relaxed. Lapo losing time again, so that gap is kind of ebbing and flowing the whole way around the circuit. It's back to 0.5.
Oh, there's a DPi off track. I wonder who's that. Behind these drivers there was a DPi running off the racetrack, and that wasn't Gustas Malakauskas.
No, because he's already got
that was Adam Khashoggi, because Matas Mendelis is gaining on Adam Khashoggi, so Adam went off the racetrack. He should be safe. Matas Mendelis stayed behind, so he will not have the tires to make that move, but it was close. Matas Mendelis might have my thought for one short moment of time that he a lucky moment came to his life after well, that should be one really difficult stint for Matas Mendelis driving that vehicle that is roughly 2 to 3 seconds of pace. And there comes Dainius Butzela already enjoying, flashing the headlights, and as you mentioned already, he calculated that nicely, the gap and the pace, and he acted the way he needed towards the end of this race.
You see, because it's stabilized again. As soon as he doesn't have traffic, it's stabilized. So I think he's just really being careful in those moments, and coming around the final turn for the Dream to Drive team. And after a horrible round at Daytona, it is a dominant win at Mugello, and he takes the DPi class win, and he's very happy about that. 3 seconds ahead of Simon Speth, who takes over the lead of the championship ahead of Gustas Malakauskas and Dainius Butzela. Alvarez, he's going to come home in a fantastic 3rd place for him. He's been quiet all day today, but it's another 3rd place for him, and that's another podium and a very consistent drive from Alvarez. Lee O'Brien is going to be your 4th place finisher, and Adam Khashoggi should take P5 pretty easily.
Matas Mendelis is really struggling. 1 minute
lost
43.2. Yeah, 5 seconds to his own pace, and roughly 8 seconds to the pace of the leader, or at least Simon Speth. So he's definitely, well, he's on a wrong strategy. Stanisław Duga should finish the race 7th. That's another nightmare. That's another unanswered question, but I hope the drivers will have a good look at the race and try to understand the decisions for the next race. Your GT3 class winner, Dmitriev, crossing the line and becoming the 2nd winner of the GT3 class in this championship. Noy Sabas should finish 2nd, and look at who's bringing the GT3 car home in P3. That's Yuri Lapa, so he finally got around Marijuan, and Esparza is right on the tail of Marijuan. So this time we had a really nice battle in the GT3 class, and look how tight those GT3s are after 1 hour of racing. So definitely somehow they met each other a little bit better on this racetrack than they were on the Daytona International, as they do the final parade lap after they crossed the start and finish line. Your 3 DPi class winners, Dainius Butzela, Simon Speth and Alvarez, enjoying the racetrack for the final moment in this championship. It's a six race championship ahead of us, and I think the next round is heading towards Austria. The famous Red Bull Ring.
Another
GP.
track difficult for a track that's very difficult again for making a clean multi-class racing.
It's relatively a short lap. It's not a big grid actually. Do we have only 15 finishers? No, we have already a lot of disconnects. So, well, we had 22 cars on the grid this time. So it's not particularly a big grid, but we still had quite a lot of action on the racetrack with the traffic, especially at the beginning of the race where we had that massive crash, which took Jan Nims out and a couple of other guys out of the contention in this race. I think Adam Kazonin was involved in that crash, but he managed to finish P5.
So here you have the results on your screen. Daniel Butwila takes the win ahead of Simon Speff. Alvarez, Leo Bryan finishes in 4th, 5th for Adam Gashoni, 6th for Mendeles, 7th for Soldukas, those two having horrible, horrible races. And then Hoven and Malakauskas rounds off the DPi field. And the GT3s, it's Dimitrov taking a win, a surprise different winner in the GT3s after the misfortunes of Jan Nims. Noel Sabas in 2nd, Yuri Lappo in 3rd, 4th for Marijuan, Esperza in 5th, 6th for Schwadas, 7th for Martinez Polonio in 8th, 9th for Boschwell, 10th for Bosshammer, 11th for Lampert, 12th for Jan Nims, who didn't finish today, and Mishkelis finishes in 17th. Well, doesn't finish.
Well, that's unfortunate. He was disqualified. I'm pretty sure he's here to gather as much experience as he can, and he will come back a little bit stronger. He had the pace during the pre-qualifying session. He didn't have the pace during the qualifying and race. But well, most of the drivers do here is gather experience, become faster, and maybe become more knowledge about the best strategy in races. We've seen a lot of different strategies, and some of them were really, really questionable. So hopefully some drivers will maybe give at least some answers, what they did and what was it about, why did Simon Speff pit so late and then was so slow out of the pit lane when he was able to put in fastest laps. Why did Justinas Soldukas wait so long for his first pit stop? Well, he could pit sooner. Anyways, a lot of questions, but I hope you enjoyed this race as much as we did with Gustas Grimbergas, but it was definitely a quite race action-packed event, and hopefully this will continue like this way. It's a 6-round championship. 5 rounds count towards the overall results of the drivers, so even though Jan Nims didn't finish this race, he still have all the chances to become the champion and win all the remaining races. But I think it's a nice battle ahead of us in both of the classes. Yeah, enough for today.
I think that's it for tonight. Tune in next week. We're back with the Ring Freaks Championship in the M235i Cup cars. And then in 2 weeks' time, we're back for the Multiclass series at the Red Bull Ring. Thank you for tuning in tonight, and good night.
Take care, and see you in 1 week time.